Good morning to you, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here in Los Angeles, California, United States of America, April 13, 2021. Greetings to you, wherever you may be. This is the 13th talk in this new series based upon my just released new book titled Extinction X-Rated. I was going to title it Spiritually Incorrect on a High Dose of Acid, but Amazon wouldn't take the title. It's an autofictional. I don't know why they put the word dark in there, except that, it's dealing with samsaric issues of good and evil. So my heart to you, thank you for tuning in. And the talk today, dealing with the unexpected. And of course that points to just a range of colors in the spectrum, a range of complexities, abnormalities, degrees of crises. When you say the word unexpected, Alan, there's so many variations on the unexpected. An asteroid traveling head-on to planet Earth at 85,000 miles an hour that we don't know and see until all life is dead. Then there's the slow motion sixth mass extinction that we're in. And of course, the house is on fire. No one smells the fumes, or we interpret it as an aromatherapy. It's a kind of darkness to that type of inevitability that we're all participants in a, as it's been called, a homicidal economy with these deep crack cocaine-like fetishes for electrification, digitalization, commodification, the ways in which we are just absolutely blind and project and judge all those who do have those two, the discernible pharmaceutical addictions or sex addictions or meditation addictions or mindfulness addictions, or so many forms in which there's a repetitive process of blindness that is contrary to your own heart and well-being. Thus the addiction label, planetary species addiction. And so the unexpected, a lightning bolt of information that you're in a critical physical condition. Who isn't, right? What's new? The biological nature of consciousness and this being that we're embodied in is just hardwired, as indelible and Nietzsche-oriented as it is. It's hardwired to the unexpected. Planetary self-annihilation, stroke, heartbreak, heart attack, a bullet through the heart, the head, an incarceration, wrongly convicted executions, car accidents, a loving moment of pure ecstasy, and all of a sudden, wow, I'm enlightened. The unexpected, not just catastrophic unexpectedness. But sometimes those unexpected dukkha here is the word that just speaks to that level of oh my God, how did that happen? Oh my God, this is happening. The avalanche of hope, the deterioration of trust, the betrayal of God, the Buddha, my own reasoning power. And next thing you know, you're in the cul-de-sac of a kind of self-generated, contextually supported, dark black hole of uncertainty, confusion, fear. The genocide in Tibet, the unexpected. The onslaught of democracy in Hong Kong, the ongoing decimation, so to speak, of the civil disobedience movement in blessed Myanmar. The incredible rising up of courage to face the epic evil out of the capital, Naypyidaw. The impotence of the United Nations Anti-Security Council, the United Nations Exacerbating of Stress Council, the United Nations 15-member Collusion with Evil Council. Yeah, just call it like it is, right? That's not unexpected, but it's so unexpected. It's like, I dare you to morally denigrate our principles and values by upholding the sanctity of the United Nations, the 193 nations of evil today, because of the epic impotence of the 15-member, presided over by the great Chinese dictatorship Xi Jinping, the nuclear-armed genocidal psychopath, runs the most prestigious organization on the world, who is in support of peace. The unexpected. That is perverse, and pornography is also unexpected. So, thank you for tuning in today. My heart is broken in a million different ways. I'm not going to get too carried away with Alan, but it's broken. And that's what you live with. Life is just incredibly complicated, to state the obvious. And it's just fraught with these roadblocks and these obstacles and these existential road bumps of tweaks and twists and curves and bends and collisions and, of course, heartbreaks. Who hasn't had heartbreak? We weep at the heartbreaks in history. We can't wait to get out of the classroom of existence to play on the field of joy. We imagine the raptures of ecstasy and eroticism and enlightenment. Yeah, let's travel the world. Let's just find the bliss and the joy of being free on the theater stage of infinite improvisational love. And then, just like lightning bolt, just like the Buddha in the text, those four great heavenly messengers. It's such a beautiful hymn, the heavenly messenger. Those unexpected encounters that just tweak, ignite, elevate the latent, just about to ripen, what we call in Buddhism parami, those innate vestiges within the existential framework of our lives that define our flow, our movement of goodness into truth and beauty and love and freedom. Each of us have these deeper proclivities. Some have left hands and right hands. Some are this way or that way. Each of us have, obviously, our capacities and predilections. Some have innate talents. Others develop it through determination. And yet, deeper than that, there are these things that give us the deeper definition, a kind of pre-Rumi-esque sense of, the prophet in each of us. Those parami forces, they get ignited. Oh my God, the Buddha was said to have left his home, his villa, his palace, with his friend, the charioteer, in the back of his SUV, wherever it was, modern, ancient. And there he sees, it says for the first time in these classical texts, a man, an old man bent over with a rod or a cane. And we could just imagine right now in the pixelation of our shared space that we had an image of an elderly person, your mother, your father, your sister, your son, your body, just you in the mirror of your own projection. And on the theater stage of our Dharma, there we are bent over. And the Buddha says, or Gautama says to his friend, who is this? What is this? And as he said, my friend, this is a man who is old and aged. And he had never known this. He had been living in beauty, in the cul-de-sac of ruby and gem and poetry and eroticism and play and archery and dance. And who knows then, maybe he was a pre-digital influencer and was playing with his digital fantasy on the 2600 hence Instagram creation. Who knows where he was hanging, but he was tweaked, right? And either we can sink with the tweak or we can elevate. And it said he elevated, thus the heavenly messenger. Dealing with the unexpected, the old person. He said, sir, this condition is innate to existence, and you too, sir, will grow old if your biology and your mental karma allow you to grow old. That is the future of your body. the future of my life. And the Buddha was said to have taken in that dialogue, taken in that dialogue. Isn't that meditation? Isn't that the asana of wisdom? Get off the downward facing dog or the cobra in full galore awakening, taking it in, taking it in, taking in the unexpected. That's what we do with heartbreak, right? They move on down the road of existence, whether it be a minute or a month or a year, and they're in front of our SUV, our walk on the street, his chariot, and he sees a man or a woman who is seriously ill, vomiting, bent over, struggling, gasping, dehydrated, frail, convulsing. You remember those times we were traveling through Iran and Afghanistan and India, and there you are, just bent over on those wooden holes and those dirt holes in the ground, and there's no antibiotic and no one to protect you, and you just, oh my God, the frailty of life, right? There it was in front of the Buddha to be, and it said, what is this condition? And it said, Gautama, this is an individual who's sickened, poisoned, diseased, vomiting, on the edge of death. He'd never seen it. I don't know about you, but very rarely do we see people in the full spectrum of a disease, of an illness, of a war zone, of an emergency room, of a COVID bed, of an IU room. I mean, all the various things that we deal with to see, and we mask and we pretend and we want to spin, but this condition, that's so what drew me, these heavenly messengers. It wasn't just there. It was everywhere. Old age and hyper disease is a condition to birth, the unexpected. It happens with children. It happens with teenagers, but we forget, neglect, and project into the defining narrative of, Western civilization or just global civilization that longevity is our nature, health is our birthright, wealth and comfort and status are what we're born into in democracies. Oh, poor them, oh, poor them. And we practice the yoga of empathy to try to put our mind and body into circumstances to come home to do our online course in the practice of compassion. But to really be face to face, right? With you are the one. Your loved one is the one who's there bent over on the ground. Thank you for allowing me to be, theatrical in my Dharma today. My heart is broken. And then the Buddha was said to have gone on, and there he encountered a dead person, the third of the four heavenly messengers. And I don't know about you, but it's not often we see death. Poetically, we see a leaf falling from a tree, a piece of fruit. I saw a dead squirrel the other day, just on the sidewalk here. And I looked at him or her for a long time because there's 3 of them in my tree here. And in this kind of voluntary isolation over the last year, I've become very heart-centrically connected to the squirrels and to the hummingbirds and to my bare feet touching the little bit of grass, the smell of the roses, sensitizing death, the taboo of death, the fear of death, the inevitability of mortality. We've talked about all these things so much, feeling them so viscerally, right? How many of us in our lives have dealt with family and friends and lovers where instantaneously they're told and you're told with conditions of the unexpected, heavenly messengers, illnesses, accidents, operations, the loss of the senses, tumors. I mean, you just want to just throw your hands up like this right at this this benevolent, epic, evil God, this embeddedness, this deep, scientific, biological, nuministic soil of infinity in which we grow out of it, and in it there are worms and centipedes and crocodiles and bats and SARS viruses and genocides and torture and rape, and I'm so want to turn the heartbreak of today into, I'm done. I'm going to end the talk with, I'm done. I'm going to be as melodramatic in my Dhamma declaration with my aditant. I am done. And the Buddha was said to have taken in death, breathed it in, felt it, the visceral reality, not running. And his friend said, Gautama, this is our future. It could happen at any second. Take it in. The meditation, the asana of mortality, the unexpected, the embrace, the feel, the visceral engagement of the absolute certainty of death. So radically normalize it, as they say, that you enter the field of the unconditioned nirvana, nibbana, right? Isn't that the ideal? I neutralize all conditions in form through an awakened relationship to nibbana, the unconditioned that engages with feeling but does not grasp with attachment. Isn't that the spiritual ideals out of the Indian subcontinent? Isn't that the perennial wisdom of the soul? Isn't that the essence of religion? Engage, love, live, chant, release, orgasm, feel, love, breathe, create, achieve. If you grasp, call it human if you need to, but your daughter will die, your son will pass, and you yourself in the mirror of your own denial will wrinkle and fade, and nothing will allow you the salvation when you die of a peaceful heart, unless you embrace the yoga of freedom. Words, 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 but it's all pointing to the visceral relationship of how to turn the unexpected into an awakening, right? An awakening. Nearly 50 years ago, I left this town, embarking on my own hero's journey, anti-hero's journey, my pharmaceutical-laden, LSD-driven, artistically angst-awakened maverick journey across India and all the things and blah, 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 right? 50 years hence, 10,000 hours of sitting meditation, plus another 10,000. How many asanas in the name of, how many chants, how many cigarettes, how many shots of whiskey, how many glasses of wine, how many orgasms, how much love, how much making love, how much hurt, how much tears, how much psychotherapy, how much plant medicine, how many doses, high doses, medium doses, low doses, all doses, how much breathing, in breath, out breath, how many neurons firing. 50 years hence, right? Here we sit. I sit with you in the congregation of infinity with a broken heart. I don't know how else to say it. I left Burma this last year. I knew it would be my last trip. We have sacred lands. Some have Israel, some have Palestine, some have Tehran, some have Singapore, some have the Himalayas, Some have their mind, their consciousness, their peak experience. Some places you call home. The association with gifts and hands and support, as close to unconditional as they can be offered. Those of you who have had that experience, you know that's what you call family and home. Burma is my Dhamma home, my spiritual home. Nuns and monks, my parents, the people, my brothers and sisters. Aung San Suu Kyi, my sister in democracy, her colleagues, my mentors and friends, in the power of bringing Dhamma into the fidelity of civilization and politics. It's my home. And I knew it would be my last. With my friend Fergus Harlow, we offered the 4-volume set, Burma's Voices of Freedom. The people, not us. Their voices, long-form interviews, keeping alive the radiance of courage under pressure. But I knew it would be my last trip. I had no idea that it would descend into hell. I don't know that anyone ultimately could, except those who were already living in hell. Deeply embedded in the hell of tyranny in Burma for decades. The Kachin, the Shan, the Hmong, the Karen, the Rakhine, the Rohingya. Hell. They know the immediacy of the heavenly messenger. And for every one in which there's, and that could happen to me, there's 100 where that is happening now to me. They are the messenger to the healthy, to the youth, to the one who is awakening. The whole world is a heavenly messenger. 252,000 people will die in this 24-hour period today. Every one of them will have someone who weeps and cries. It's just too much. 50 years hence. I sit now, and I want to end today's sharing with a prayer. Not a prayer of self-pity, not a prayer specifically to anyone, but sometimes the awakening I'm feeling is inverted, and it drops and descends in very asymmetrical ways, where your mindfulness must include unequivocally new dimensions yet known on the emotional basis. It's not seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching alone. It's like you're descending into the ocean without artifice, apparatus. You have to drown, Alan, to the normalcy of a lung-based existence to occupy a deeper, deeper trans-earthly physics, the heart Dharma, the subconscious Dharma. And therein lies my Dhamma prayer. And I want to share with you a very personal prayer that I've been doing since I've been here for the last year. I'll confide in you. It's been a deep premonition of mine. I don't know, it goes through all of us at some times. I had it even when I was a child. For hours I would be under my bed in the darkness contemplating death. I don't fear death. But since I've been here in this home of my dear beloved friend and his wife, also my beloved friend, who I married, Robert Chardoff and Jenny Chardoff, one of my closest male friends who passed away a few years ago, an icon in his own way spiritually, and of course in the film world, those who know Robert Chardoff will know he's done 39 films, most famous, all the Rockies, and he was tireless with his support of me. Never give up. There's no obstacle too large not to engage and overcome. Unequivocal transcendence of self-doubt. Never give up. So I chose to write a book here with the archetypal question for me of why live? To embrace, never give up. And for nearly a year I sat here in a variety of conditions reflecting on that question. And here it is today, April 13th, 2021. And I want to share with you what I woke with every morning in my prayer, a prayer that I conceived here. It was a voice prayer, a heart prayer. And I'll end with my determination at the end. I've only shared it with my dear friend, Janine, in Vancouver. But it's a very elementary level of chant. And I would walk in the hallway here with the large Buddha statue. You can't see it. It's actually much bigger than this one from Burma. Bob and I were in Burma together. I brought him there and he acquired these Buddhas. And I get up in the morning and I walk up and down what I call my Dhamma hall. And I do a Dhamma prayer, a meditation on the most simple things. And it's not words. I want to encourage you, or encourage me here. The most simple words of how to embrace the core organs of my life, the Dhamma organs, the Dhamma heart of my life. Buddhang saranang gacchami. You know that, right? Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. It's so easy to hear those three refuges, children chanting, girls chanting, in elementary schools in Burma and Thailand, in Lanka, in India. And you think of it as simple. And every morning I would just walk up and down and I would do everything possible to feel the living, breathing intelligence of the meaning. Live the oxygen of Buddhang Saranang. I take refuge, Alan, in the oxygen of understanding the constituents of freedom, Buddha. I have in me the intrinsic root parami to awaken this meaning of Buddha. Dhammang saranang gacchami. How often we go beyond the chamomile tea, the caffeine, the desire for intimacy, the next page of a book, how much we make in our session, the next appointment, the things that we have to do, the lists, to drop into Dhammang saranang gacchami, to engage in the oxygen of Dhamma. I no longer meditate specifically in a posture and I say, and that too. Dhammang saranang gacchami. A prayer, an invocation, a pointing, a feel to the lungs of my Dhamma awakening. Breathe in and exhale kilesa. Breathe in kusala. Wholesome thought, speech, and action. Understand the colors of my Dhamma on the cognitive, physical palette of my heart, and unbreak it with the prediction of death, fear, illness. Unbreak it, mend it, heal it, overcome it. Breathe into Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. What are those constituents of consciousness responsible for your awakening into the Buddha mind? Patience rather than outcome. The love of the process. Deep Dhamma adventure. Where is that color of heart? Facing every obstacle with mindful courage. Where is that color, Alan, in your heart? Transforming every obstacle into opportunity. Where is that parami of determination in your heart? Can you paint? Can you type? Can you breathe? Can you sing? Can you dance, make love in those Dhamma colors in your own heart? Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. I take refuge, Alan Clements, in I can't live alone. Everything that I am, everything that you are, is interrelated, requiring otherness than you. Inseparably, we breathe, we live, we walk, we talk, we move, we share, we send text, we FaceTime, we love, we cry, we build coffins, we build pyramids. Some shoot bullets, some torture, some rape. Aberrant. They had mothers and fathers and grandparents. Where were they? How was it that they turned out to be evil? And then the Dhamma of redemption. One of my best friends, U Tinu, the former general under the dictator, who anointed Tan Shui, who anointed Ming Online, the satanic dictator in Burma today. His grandfather, Ne Win, his best friend, U Tinu, the general of the army, became one of my best friends. I just recently saw him in my last visit. 6 years in isolation as a general, playing golf with his best friend Ne Win, and instantly out of nowhere on the 9th hole, armed soldiers come and without a word, making direct eye contact, as U Tinu told me, he took him away, put him in solitary confinement with nothing and no explanation. Thus, dictatorship and the fear of a coup d'etat by his general. He was released and brought to the monastery where he ordained the second day after his release. We became instant friends. He became a colleague and a founder of the National League for Democracy in Burma, along with U Chi Mong and U Win Tin and Do Aung San Suu Kyi, all former military people, long before Ming Online. He was nobody. He was a child suckling his mother's breasts if he was lucky. They all abandoned dictatorship. I was blessed. Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. The bonds of friendship. That's the word Sangha. Not just community. That's if you're lucky to have 3. Those deep, visceral, Dhamma-based, Buddha-illuminated Sangha members, cellular transformational lovers of the heart, those people who want to commune with authenticity and truthfulness and dignity, have much more space for you to be you than for you to be something for me. And that too is humanized, but the expectation and the practice is to mindfully embrace and peel back the expectation, the judgment, the blame, the anger, and understanding the role within Sangha of forgiveness. And as my friend U Tinu talked about, Alan, never forget the role of redemption in Dhamma. All of us have the evil DNA. And each of us, if nurtured, have the paramis for awakening, the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. They're there. Those seeds are there. As my teacher U Pandita said, if you understand those seeds of consciousness and know how to nurture them, you will awaken cause and effect. Sangha, people who point out flaws without judgment, people who elevate, compliment without grasping. And yes, they include grasping and they include fear too. Humanize, right. But yet they're radical, they're warrioresses, they're savants, they're artistic. They write, they think, they dance out of the box. Be true to yourself in fidelity to Buddhang, Dhammang, Sanghang. Sangha, my prayer in the morning, here in my Dhamma walking path with a broken heart. Contemplating the ephemerality of life, the impermanence of life, the love of life, the death of life, the hope of love, the fear of love, and the deep rootedness in, I know my life to be rooted in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And then I chant in my own humble way the 5 basic precepts. You know these: Panatipata, Vairamani, Sikkhabadam, Samadhiyami. You know, I undertake the precept not to take life. Yes, there are infringements. Yes, there's the occasional this or that of meat and foul. Cease, 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 elevate, cease, cease, constantly in heavenly messenger land. The Dhamma, applying Panatipata, Vairamani, making that prayer every morning. Adina, Dana, Vairamani, Sikkhabadam, Samadhiyami. I make a vow today to embody the power of skillful speech and to refrain from harsh and judgment and blame. I empower the virtue of understanding the right words spoken at the right time, in the right tone, with the right motivation, and trying to release any grasping and attachment from the sharing. Adina, Dana, Vairamani, Sikkhabadam, Samadhiyami. Kamesu, Michachara, Vairamani, Sikkhabadam, Samadhiyami. Every morning for the last year, walking up and down, every morning, my morning Dhamma prayer, my meditation, feeling the vibrational, auditory sensitivity of the words made real on the meaning of my own heart and soul. Not just chanting to the ear or out of memory. Kamesu Michachara Vairamani Sikkhabadam Samadhi. I commit myself to restrain from any form of sexual coercion or misconduct. I commit myself to an ongoing practice of sacred celibacy. I commit myself to mindful intimacy. Musavada Vairamani Sikkhabadam Samadhiyami. Now, that is about right speech, whereas Adina Dana, the prayer for Adina Dana, is about not taking that which is not given. And the opposite of that is the empowerment of Dana. That's what really brought me into grace with the people of Burma. A culture that leads with their Dhamma, not just Buddhists, but all of them, they're pretty much, outside of the ones gripped by evil at the moment, leading by Dhamma, leading by Buddha, leading by Sangha, leading by metta, leading by compassion, leading by empathy, and a culture leading by giving. Right now with the civil disobedience movement, people are risking their lives. Take what you need, leave anything if you wish as remuneration. Banks are closed, schools are closed, civil disobedience movement has spread throughout the country. Everyone is disobeying the machinations of the evil terrorist group, Mossack. And slowly the police and the military will throw off their uniform as well. Not taking which is not given to you. And equally elevating how to support by giving freely to life. And then the last of the 5 precepts, Sura Meraya Maja Pamadatana Veramani Sikhabadam Samadhiyami. I refuse to participate in taking any form of intoxicant that creates heedlessness. And the opposite is I want to ingest and breathe and take into my mind through literature and food, substance and liquids, things that create luminosity. Those 5 precepts, my Dhamma prayers. Panatipata, Adina Dana, Kamesu Michachara, Musavada, and Sura Mera Majapamadatana. And the last of my 5, they're a reflection on 3 which are very classic. And so many of the classic Buddhist discourses are rooted in these, they call them the 3 classical characteristics defining all phenomena. Anicca, impermanence; anatta, emptiness of self-fixation, nothing permanent in an infinite field of impermanent conditions. Anicca, anatta, and dukkha. Dukkha, the inherent unsatisfactoriness, discord in a world of perpetual change unless one sees the wisdom of release from grasping and attachment and the concomitants of what constitutes dukkha or suffering. Obviously, the dukkha of physical struggle. We're all in bodies that will age and disease and decay and die. We don't know when the lightning bolt comes and strikes us. All types of diseases, all types of illnesses, these are obvious forms of dukkha. The dukkha of embodiment. And without health and doctors and nurses and friends and lovers and strangers who help support us, we're alone in the dukkha field of a body without medicine, food. And then there's the dukkha of simply states of consciousness, which are so many times more magnitude complex than the dukkha of physical pain. The dukkha of loss, the suffering of separation from those you love, the dukkha or the pain of being with those you don't want to be with, having to hear someone insult you, having to hear someone ridicule you, having to be tyrannized, having to be threatened, the tyranny of rape, the tyranny of torture, the tyranny of not being able to escape your oppressor. Those forms of mental dukkha and physical dukkha are just unthinkable. We'll do anything to escape those messengers embedded in our lives everywhere. And then the dukkha, the deep, deep dukkha of oscillation, of the inherent evanescence of everything times everything. No exception, impermanence. Wow. Wow. And every morning I do what I can to wake up out of bed and resurrect my reverence to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and moreover, my own mindful courage to live in the awakening of Buddha as a reality. I don't want to just chant to a Buddha. I don't want to remember my life as a monk. I want to live in the radiance of a liberating freedom that delivers me more into an unconditional understanding on a visceral level of nibbana, full awakening. I desire my aditant. I want to be fully awakened. I don't want to keep being reborn in this field of dukkha. I want to have the courage to face every obstacle, even a broken heart, with an opportunity to be gifted to elevate any form of conventional struggle to a higher radiance. Isn't that the cry that all of us want to live in? I'm just sharing you my own prayer. I don't expect anything from you. Here on April 13th, 2021. Engaging the unexpected. A prayer, a Dhamma prayer for all of us, for the unborn. Anicca vata sankhara upadavaya dhammino upatichua niruchanti te sambhupasamo sukho. All conditioned things in this samsara, this existence, all dimensions, all thoughts, all neurons, all memories, all conditions, every movement, every intention, every cetasika, every mind state, every cetana, every intention, every mouthful of food, every swallowing second, every movement of the eye, the ear, the sound, everything that's in context to senses, every changing moment. Anicca. Imagine if we lived in the radiant wisdom that everything was a gift to hold up the gift of breathing and cognition and existence. And right there we saw, oh my God, I'm on the psychedelic Dhamma. There is nothing absolutely to hold on to, and equally everything to feel with the radiance of Dhamma, the Dhamma lens. I take refuge. Buddhang, Dhammang. I'm pointing here for myself, the living radiance of a prayer-like meditation to keep reminding us of the heavenly messengers of the day by these fundamental 3 refuges, 5 precepts, and the 3 tilakkhana, the 3 characteristics of existence. Coming to the end. Anatta vata sankhara upadavaya dhammino upatichua niruchanti te sambhupasamo sukho. All things in this universe are without centrality. To understand that Dhamma in any way that's human to you is to live in the highest happiness. Every phenomena is a coreless, ultimately infinite ecosystem of mental, physical, psychological, cognitive, and I don't know what else to call the pre-numanistic, the pre-existential, the cosmological, the quantum, the pre-post-quantum. Everything is empty of centrality. An interrelated, infinite set of dimensional vortexes without a core identity. A mind-boggling reality. And my God, I am here, a phantasm that emotes, that feels, that cries, that loves, that deals with the realities of money and sex and time and education and books and breathing and sharing and iPhones and fears and extinctions and time travel and all forms of democracy and reconciliation. We live based on making decisions on our principles and values. We are elaborate, organic actors in an infinite world of theater, theatrical, existential theater that emotes with love and freedom and genocide. And we can choose seemingly our destinies, trajectories. Buddhang, you can choose your Dhamma. You can choose your journey. infinite crossroads, the life I could have led, the life I'll lead, and the life of me right here, right now, with you mindfully awakening to the heavenly messengers of illness, old age, disease, death, and uncertainty. What will you do, Alan? How will you engage it? Dukkha vata sankara, upadavaya damino, upatichoa nerajanti, tesam vupasamo sukho. All phenomena hold on to me and you suffer. A timeless principle, so they say from the great nuns and monks, the mendicants all over the world in every religion, the Buddhas. Hold on to me and you suffer. Release the phenomena and there's joy and happiness. Make haste with your Buddha, Dhamma, and your Sangha. Keep those three configurations of your Dhamma practice active in your life. You can't do it alone, Sangha. Know the colors on your Dhamma palette: patience, truthfulness, integrity, loving kindness, compassion, discernment, knowing when to walk, knowing when to jump over, knowing when to go around, knowing when to release, critical thinking, deep inquiry, mindfulness, knowing how to breathe freely, in-breath, out-breath, neither wish to live nor fear death. And I will conclude today with my final self-prayer, which I very rarely have shared with anyone. And this is speaking on a very personal basis, which I do every morning. I make an adhitant. I was encouraged to make these adhitants by my teachers in Myanmar, who are now passed away. An adhitant is a Pali Buddhist word that is a determination, a very strong, as courageous as you can make it, determination, a cognitive determination to direct the field of your own accumulated paramis, your own namarupas, your own movement through dimensions and existences, the navigational rudder, if you will, of your own birth after birth. An adhitant, you can begin to live in the fidelity of navigating samsara by making adhitants. My adhitant, my determination is, I no longer want to be reborn ever in the manusa loka, in the human realm. Set aside any of the lower dimensions, animals and petas. I want nothing to do with human and animal existence. I want to be reborn in Tavatimsa, one of the 6 Deva realms, where it's said that Maitreya, the next Buddha in the final being of the Buddhas, in this spectrum of 24 Buddhas, Gautama was the last, and Maitreya is the next to come, where Maitreya, a bodhisattva, a being dedicated to becoming a Buddha, mastering Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, mastering anicca, anatta, and dukkha, mastering the precepts, is there, waiting to take birth, waiting to mature paramis, coming into fidelity with what I have termed one's own samsaric sangha. How many times we meet people in this life where the fidelity of that communion is so unexplainably rich, deep, you're finishing existential, psychological, psychedelic-laden sentences together. The naturalness is, wow, we've only met for a month and we feel a year. An eternal sense of comfort that isn't moved by grasping or hope. Space, support, creative mutuality. All these very rare qualities that define for me a samsaric Sangha member rather than ordinary human chemistry. set aside an enemy or just a friend. Deep principle-based, high artistic psychedelic communion. The erotification of Ubuntu. The sapio-existential sexual. You can make love with mind at a deep, intimate level. Those people I want to meet. I want to meet them with Maitreya. I'm called out in my book, the whole last third, the whole last act, because the book is written for a film, as a film, in cinematic fashion. I want to meet my Samsara Sangha members with Maitreya, and I want to take rebirth as a Sangha member with a Buddha. I want to hear a Buddha teach Dhamma. I want to be fascinated by the music, the rap, the hip-hop, the theater, the Peter Brooksian, the Shakespearean expression of a Buddha talking in such a way, sharing in such a way with the various abhinyas. I want to have all the psychic powers. This is my aditan. I want to attain arhatship with the full display of psychic powers as a student of the Buddha to be in the next life. That to me is the theater that I want to play in one last time before I attain, as it said, as I feel it in my aditant, my prayer for Dhamma, before I attain the highest nibbana and pass on into the unconditioned. May it come true. May I encourage you to encounter heavenly messengers with your Dhamma. May I encourage you to evoke your own Dhamma prayer and to keep it active in your heart and life wherever you go, to breathe into the meditation, the asana of like oxygen. Breathing must be done by oneself. Breathing must be done repeatedly. Breathing must be done well. And then there's the vitality of what oxygen provides to animate consciousness in form to live in Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sangham. We get to take refuge as a living, breathing oxygen. The five precepts, panatipata, adinadana, kamesu michachara, musavada, sura, meraya, maja, pamadatana, anicca, anatta, and dukkha. How to live in these freedoms. From my heart to yours, thank you for being in my life, and have a beautiful day. And may the good people of Burma keep finding the courage to rise high in their own love of democracy and freedom. And may the people succeed in their revolution of the spirit. And may the good people around the world come to support quickly the freedom-loving people of Burma. And from my heart to yours, dealing with the unexpected, a Dhamma prayer to support us in engaging a broken heart.